Hey guys, it's Quickie Baby, and this video is going to be all about assigning crew skills for your tank destroyers. Tank destroyers are one of those interesting types of tanks that really like to remain hidden for as long as possible, but also have the significant issue that because of their lack of turret, if they get tracked, then they're pretty much completely stuck in the mud. What this means is there's an absolute toss-up between taking camouflage and repair. I'm going to try and give you the feeling of what I do for choosing either camouflage or repair for my tanks, and then maybe you can make the similar decisions. So whereas in my opinion medium tanks really need repair above tier 5 and heavy tanks, if you're in a heavy tank you need repair, there isn't such a rule of thumb for tank destroyers. However, tank destroyers generally have a hell of a lot of hit points less than their medium tank and heavy tank equivalents at their tier. For example, we look at the SU-100 here, a tier 6 Russian tank destroyer, having 520 hit points, which will not increase because that is effectively as much as it will get because it cannot upgrade its turret as it does not have one. Whereas the T-3485 gets 670, while the KV-1S gets over 800. What this means is that you might want to consider taking camouflage as a rule of thumb on your tier 6 tank destroyers and below, and when you get to tier 7 and above, you might want to consider taking repair first. In my opinion, definitely when you get to tier 8, you want to be taking repair first, as you do generally have 1,000 hit points, and there's nothing more frustrating than seeing all of your 1,000 hit points whittled away because there's a medium tank on your flank shooting you in your track every single time. In fact, I absolutely love ambushing what I would call novice tank destroyer players who are playing in tanks such as the Object 704, the tier 9 Russian tank destroyer, who like to take camouflage instead of repairs, because you know that as soon as you've tracked them, they're out. That's it, they're dead, there's nothing that they can do. I've got all day to traverse their tank and take them out without taking any damage myself. There might be some exceptions to this, with the new glass cannon tank destroyers that are the German tank destroyer line, literally being so weak on armor that arguably you're not going to get tracked that much, and maybe camouflage to avoid the fire in the first place may be your best option. There are of course tanks such as the new British tank destroyers that if you don't have repair crew, then frankly you're a muppet. Why is that? Well, that's because the British tank destroyers get bonuses to their health. The tier 6 as an example has the equivalent of most other nations' tier 7 tank destroyers in health. The tier 7 87 has more hit points than most tier 8 tank destroyers. The tier 8 is cutting it close, having the tank destroyer health of a tier 9. And the Tortoise has got more health than nearly every tank in the game except for the heavy tanks. What this means is that with this amount of armor, the poor traverse speed, and the poor camo ratings they get due to the giant nature of the tank, means they get shot a lot and they get detracked a lot, and that means that you definitely want to have repair on these tanks as your first skill, be able to get yourself out of trouble. So, here's an example of a tank destroyer that I would take camouflage first on, the Hellcat. So when it reaches its second skill, you want to respec, so to say, and take 6th Sense and then retake camouflage. I would consider taking Snapshot to enhance your shooting techniques while traversing your turret. The Hellcat has horrific traverse speed, as do most tank destroyers. I would fully recommend prioritizing clutch braking on your tank destroyers. In fact, some might consider clutch braking to be so important that you might want to take it instead of your first skill. However, I still advocate either taking camouflage on your low tier tanks or repair on your higher tier tanks before taking clutch braking. Your radio operator wants to be using situational awareness, in my opinion, to maximize your view range, and your loader probably wants to be taking repairs after you've finished your camouflage, or vice versa on your heavier tanks. Once you've reached your third skill, you'll want to drop everything, take Brothers in Arms to be able to get that extra lovely 5% bonus, and then redo exactly what we've just talked about. From there on, it's probably up to you. Generally, you're going to start to take repair more on your 4th skills throughout your crew, and just pick up the little perks using your intuition. However, to run over your big, slow tank destroyers, what you should do? Well, it's very similar. What you want to do is drop your first skill as soon as you get into your second, pick up 6th Sense, and then start taking repairs. And then once you've reached your third skill, do exactly the same, but take Brothers in Arms as well as the 6th Sense. Now, one thing I'd like to highlight quickly with the gunner skills and perks is that Designated Target can be quite good with tank destroyers. It's a perk, so remember you're probably going to have to use it instead of your repairs, but what it will allow you to do is keep the enemy that you just spotted visible for an extra 2 seconds, and that generally is fantastic for a tank destroyer skill. Armorer is also very useful. Some tank destroyers have got very weak mantlets, and others just get their gun shot a lot because players are beginners and they'll auto aim at your tank and just literally just fire and hit your gun often. The armorer skill will allow you to be more accurate with a damaged gun, and in heavily armored tank destroyers such as the T-95, that can be a very good thing, as you're generally going to take a hell of a lot of hits and maybe lose your gun multiple times before the end of the battle. Taking snapshot is obviously much better in turreted tank destroyers. However, it still does have a tiny bit of benefit to gun traverse in non-turreted tank destroyers. However, the effect is so slight that in my opinion you will be taking this as one of the last skills for your gunner. Now your loader probably wants to be taking safe stowage eventually, but before that you want to be taking repairs and camouflage, of course. Now I do not have a tank destroyer crew that has reached 4 skills, but the ones that I'd be looking forward to would be recon for my commander. I would be looking forward to getting off-road driving camouflage on my driver. And I think the gunner is definitely one of the most important things on a tank destroyer. I'd definitely love to pick up, as I just highlighted a minute ago, designated target, armorer, even Deadeye so I can do more damage to the enemy tanks. Nearly everything apart from snapshot, and that's what's frustrating about the tank destroyers, is that you want to pick up so many skills on your gunner. What you really prioritize taking is completely up to you, and it's your choice. I've just been giving you the information about what I like to do. So just to highlight my rule of thumb for the difference between camouflage and repairs, if you're driving a British tank destroyer, you should definitely be taking repairs as your first skill. However, for all the other nations, I would recommend taking camouflage as your first skill up to tier 6 and possibly tier 7. When you're playing tier 8 and above, you really want to be using repair on your tank destroyers as your first skill. So anyway guys, that was my video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've appreciated it, please consider rating it down below and tell me what you think in the comments about my selection for the tank destroyers. If you've agreed with me, maybe you've disagreed with me, tell me what you think. But as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.